sit in and get with you, baby, tonight. I don't wanna love, I don't wanna fight. I don't wanna have to tell you all the things I know. I don't wanna stay, but I don't wanna go. I don't wanna be the lover in your arms. I don't wanna be the one to keep you from home. I don't wanna be the crooked person in your heart. I don't wanna stop, but I don't wanna stop. Part-time lover, how we suffer now. And I don't wanna waste no more of your precious time. I don't wanna say that everything will be fine. I don't wanna feel your tears on my skin. I'm a coward, baby, don't let me in. Part-time lover, how we suffer now. So I don't wanna sit in and get with you, baby, tonight. I don't wanna love, I don't wanna fight. I don't wanna have to tell you all the things I know. I don't wanna stay, but I don't wanna go. Wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world of war. There is no sickness, toil nor danger in that bright land to which I go. I'm going there to see my mother. I'm going there, no more to roam. I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just going to see my father. I'm going there, no more to roam. I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just going over home. I'm going there to see my brother. He said he'd meet me when I come. Hush, little darling, don't say a word. I'm gonna buy you a mockingbird. Say, darling, say. And if that mockingbird don't sing, I'm gonna buy you a diamond ring. Yes, and I know that diamond ring. Yes, I know that diamond ring is gonna shine. Darling, if you'll marry me, I'll buy you a house with a big oak tree. Say, darling, say, we'll live in the house with the big oak tree. 3 little babies on your knee. Yes, and I know that diamond ring. Yes, I know that diamond ring is gonna shine. So hush, little Lola, don't say a word. I'm gonna buy you a mockingbird.
Greetings and salutations. This is Thumbs United. We are starting our creative stream, and yeah, let's get to work. Get back to work. I haven't done a creative stream in quite a while. I've been doing produced content, which is all the work we do. I do live streaming of the creative stuff. I build these like projects, and they're like, I do slideshows and documentaries and stuff. And so once they're finished and edited, they go up to Patreon first. But then I start releasing them onto Twitch. And so that's what the produced content is. It's the work we've actually been working on during the creative streams. You get to see the final form, and that's what the produced content is. It's videos that we edit. Sometimes it's videos I edit offline, but usually it's videos and films and animations that I film, that I live stream on Twitch. So I just got back. It wasn't a vacation. It was really like, I don't know what to call it, but it was a journey. And so we drove from Michigan to Northern California and then to Pennsylvania, and it was just non-stop in the car. It took 13 days going there. Getting from Michigan to California, it took 3 days, 3 solid days of driving. But on the way back, it took longer. It took about maybe 6 days, 7 days, and then 2 days in Pennsylvania and another day back. That should be like 14 days. And so yeah, the reason why we went to California was we were picking up a service dog, and so we were moving them to Pennsylvania. And as we were driving, I was sitting in the back seat and taking photos across all of America, essentially. We did the East Coast. We did from essentially the East Coast to the West Coast, taking I-80, and then that's the highway, and it goes all the way from, it like starts in New York and it goes all the way to California. But and so it's a little bit north of what we usually go. Usually when we go from Michigan to California, we take 80 and then we go down to like, I believe it's 60. We've done Route 66 once, but it wasn't exceptional. So the fastest way to Southern California is to go from 80 to 60, and then you mosey on down. And so what we did going 80, we went from Michigan to Indiana, down, and then Iowa, Nebraska, Wyoming, and then Utah and Nevada, and then we were in Northern California. And so we kind of did the same thing back, except when we got to Indiana, we went through Ohio and then through Pennsylvania. Ohio is really easy to get through. It's only like a 5 or 6 hour drive, but Pennsylvania, don't mess around with Pennsylvania. It's like the Texas of the East Coast. It's a solid 9 to 10 hours of just driving straight. And so, I mean, like I said, it was a drive, but I got good photos. I actually did this special stuff where I wired the car. I have these dongles that you take an Ethernet cable, and then you clip one dongle onto one end and another dongle onto the other end, and it turns it into a really long USB cord. So you can have USB cables based on your Ethernet cable. You can make it like 100 feet, you can make it 50 feet. And so what I did was I wired the cameras that I put on the car. I mount a GoPro and And I have a 3D GoPro which I use for 3D VR, and then the Hero 3 Plus, which does UHD barely. It does a 2.7K, and then I was also recording with the 360 camera mounted on the side, and so the GoPro that's recording the UHD footage had the USB cable that goes all the way through the car to essentially to the back where the plug is, and then the 360 camera also had a plug, and I wired that to go through the car too. And so it was pretty much, instead of filming till when the battery ended, I was filming till when the memory card was full. And so that's a little different than how I usually film. So that means, like, if I put in a 32 gigabyte card, it was gonna get filled up as we drove. And so the average amount of hard drive space I would use was about 260 gigabytes a day. And throughout the whole trip, I had to start conserving for the way back, because on the way from Michigan to California, I filled up a 1.5 terabyte hard drive, but on the way back, it was like, okay, on the way there, I filled up, the 1.5 terabyte hard drive. On the way back, I only have this 1 terabyte hard drive, and we're going even further. So I really kind of cut back on what I was filming. Like, I would make note to only fill up, each camera only had one card to fill up a day, instead of doing the endless kind of shuffling of cards, where I would put a new card in the camera, and then on my computer I would back up the card while we were driving, then wipe that card, put it, and then switch it and put the new card back in the camera, and keep doing that. So it was kind of like straight to tape recording, hours and hours of footage. But so the VR, I kind of already I tested it out and it looks pretty good, the 360 camera. And then the 3D VR, which I'm just doing photos, 3D photos for. That one I would just use till the battery went dead. And so I have like 6 pairs of batteries, and so I would just swap them out at each pit stop. And so the 3D camera would get, I can check, where is it? It would average around 2,000 photos a day. But so then in addition to that, I was taking photos with my Canon, and that's what we're going to edit today. That's what I have set up right now. I had to shoot through the window because the VR camera is actually mounted to the same window I'm taking photos out of, and so I can't roll it up and down. So the colors are gonna be a little off, and that's what we're gonna have to fix. And yeah, so let's get to work. So these are the Canon photos. It's almost 1,000. There's 952, and I plan on doing the first 2 sections, which are about 400 photos. So hopefully it works. Hopefully we get that done. We gotta reach our goals. So what I did was I shot in shade, but I'm shooting in RAW, so that means I can change the white balance. You can see me changing the white balance here. After the fact, what RAW does is JPEG compresses the image, so it's exactly, it's only the compressed version of the image. There's nothing extra. It's what you can visually see. And so what RAW does is, instead of capturing only what you can visually see, it captures what the digital sensor actually picks up, and it's more like shooting with film, in that it captures the entire kind of color range of the subject. And then digitally, with software and everything, you go back and you can say, okay, this was daylight, so that adjusts the color temperature. And what the color temperature is it's kind of like what it sounds like. It's the temperature of light, and so it's the hues of the surrounding light. So a warm color temperature would be like outdoors. That's very warm light. And you think about it, one of the things that a lot of people got outraged with the energy efficient lights is those curly Q ones, you would buy them, and the incandescent lights, which is actually a white balance setting, it's very yellow, it's warm, and it kind of feels like the sun, but it's not as bright. And so you get the energy efficient light bulbs, and they were bright blue, like this bright, cool light. And it was annoying everyone when they first came out. And over time, they got the energy efficient lights to become more, to get the color temperature closer to what the incandescent lights, and make it more warm colors, as in yellow, orange, red, those kind of hues. Cool colors are like blue, purple, green. Those are cooler colors. And so that's what I'm talking about when I talk about it's the white point. So what color temperature the white point is. So because this isn't raw, I can choose my own white point. So these clouds are a little bit bluish, but we're gonna pretend it's white. And so I just picked that cloud to be the white point. This actually looks like a better representation of what's white. So that's kind of how we got the white balance there. Now these images I shot them a lot darker than they're supposed to be. I did that on purpose because I needed the high shutter speed. And so what I did was I told the camera is I have it in aperture evaluate mode, which means I control the aperture 100% of the time. But I can tell the camera, okay, you're in charge of the shutter speed. And so it chooses the appropriate shutter speed for how much light there is. But you can also say, okay, I know you want to expose it, perfectly with what you think it is, the exposure should be. And so you can set your camera to, with the brackets, you say, okay, you're going to want to make this, evenly illuminated. I want to take what you think is evenly illuminated, and I want you to shoot 2 times darker than that. And you should really do like 0.5 stops. That's what they call it, the brackets. It's a stop down or a stop up. But I usually, for like outdoor photography and really for everything in general, you should shoot at half a stop down, because you can always lighten an image. That's really easy for digital, but you can't. You can always make a digital image brighter, but it's very difficult, even today with cameras that do RAW and digital DSLRs and even medium format digital. You can't. It's difficult to make an image darker, because with digital, if something's too bright, it just records it as white, and you can't recover any detail from the white, essentially from the whiteness, because it's so bright the sensor can't see beyond it. And so if you darken everything else in the image, it's still going to be bright white. And I think I can show you. So no, I can't, because this photo is. I'm sure there'll be a photo. Maybe this one. Like, you can't. So like, if you, let's say this photo was shot like this, all this white area we wouldn't be able to recover. We couldn't bring it down. See, that's what it would look like if I shot it overexposed. I mean, the building looks right, and the parking lot and this pillar, which is actually a windmill, looks right. And so we can brighten it up, but we can't ever get any more data back because it's overexposed. Now that's just me simulating. This is actually what it looked like. And so this image is actually taken. It's too dark, but it, like I said, it's easy to brighten the shadows and the areas in darkness like that. And so And that's kind of a secret I learned from other photographers. And they were like, always shoot half a stop lower. Because you can always brighten. It's really easy, even in the darkroom, to brighten images. It's really difficult to darken them. Okay. So we're going to do general settings. Kind of keep it as general as we can. And that white balance I took, it was just a suggestion. I wanted to see how well it would do, and it honestly didn't do that well. I don't think. And I am shooting through a tinted window, so the colors are going to be a little funky. And we just, like I said, we're not. We want to get it just in between. So I think that's our white balance. Now, I'm gonna bring up the exposure a little bit like that, and we're gonna make some general. Just kind of keep it loose, not make any settings specific to this photograph so much, because we're going to duplicate them. Okay, what do we want to do now? And so this is not the look we're going for, but this is kind of the general settings I want to apply to all of the photos where I shot through the window. So this is kind of like my template for shooting through the tinted window. So I'm gonna go and we're gonna synchronize settings. And let's synchronize. Just gonna go through and apply all those settings. It doesn't burn it into the image. With Lightroom, what it does is it's a non-destructive editor, but what happens is I can change the values by sliding the dials up and down, and then it renders it live. So it does the effects in front of your eyes. And so every time you make a change, it recalculates and shows you the change. But it doesn't actually save it to the image. It saves it as a save file as part of the Lightroom library. And so when we go to export the images, then it will actually do the final calculation and export the final image, which will have all the edits and everything that we did. But until then, we look at these are actually the originals, and we edit kind of over them, but we're not actually doing anything with the originals. It's just we're saving the preferences for each image until we export, and then that's when the exported file will burn in. But we're not messing with the originals ever. It just goes on top. So we synced, and so this is kind of how they all look through the window, and it looks a lot better. So I approve. Now we're going to fine tune everything. So I want to bring down what do I want to do? I'm just messing around with the tone curves. The tone curves are how we process the lights and the darks. So the dark area is down at the bottom here, and so if we raise the curve, then we're saying everything that's dark we want to make it bright, and we can make the dark areas brighter but we can keep the bright areas, like up above, we can keep those, not too bright. And so you really get to customize how the image brightness and contrast is. It's like an additional way we can affect the brightness without actually doing it like this. We would, if we made the contrast high or low, it would apply everywhere. If we make it bright, the whole image gets brighter, or completely black. We don't want that. And so with the tone curves, we can just edit the dark areas and get them where we want. And then we can make the bright areas like overly bright, which is kind of something I like to do. I like the white points to be really, really high. But so actually what we're going to do now is we're going to cut off. So everything past a certain point will be black, meaning like shadows and darkness. So that's a way to increase the contrast of things that are in shadow, subject matter that's in shadow. But then before it gets to there, like all this, it's very well illuminated until a certain point. There we go. So that one's done. We're going to go a lot faster. Pass through a lot of farmland. It is crazy how much farmland there is in the Midwest. And there's not a lot of people, there's not a lot of farmers. There's just miles after miles of farmland and a tiny town, or essentially a gas station. That's it. And that's it. And it's incredible because it's so few people that have to take care of so much land, and they're responsible for feeding not just America but a lot of the world, really. Okay, we're gonna some of these photos are a little too blurry, but that's okay. I'll go through and there are those windmills. You can see the reflection. I'm just joking, I'm not going to do that. Trying to see if there was a way to get the reflection less noticeable, but there's not. I might be able to Photoshop it out, but I don't like doing that to my photographs. Photographs. And again, we did most of the general settings with that first image. We're just gonna fine tune them. Now we're gonna bring in the darkness. Do 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 do. I got so much work done. I've been juggling a lot. That's kind of why I took a small break from doing creative. I was doing a little bit more video games because it was like the end of the day and it was easy to set up because I just streamed straight from the Xbox One. But I was also doing a lot of rendering on the computer I usually do my live streams from, so I don't think it could have handled me using Lightroom and live streaming and rendering. But for the past month I've been rendering the animation files for the Milwaukee project, specifically the 8K version. And so what happened is I mean, you can look at the archives on the Thumbs United YouTube channel, but we've been editing together. We've been editing the medium format color film that I shot in Milwaukee, and so when I scanned it in as a negative, I scanned it in at around, it was 200 and it varied between 230 and 260 megapixels because the film is large. It's huge. It's over double the size of 35 millimeter. Like 35 millimeter is 70 millimeters, and a medium format, the diagonal line it's 80. So it's actually a little bit larger than the film they use for IMAX cameras. And so I scanned it in, and it was about 200, and I would rescale each image down to 240 megapixels. And so it being a color TIFF format, which is, you can't really shoot RAW from scanners when you scan, but the closest thing they have to RAW is the TIFF format, and so it scans into an uncompressed 16-bit image, which is significantly larger than a JPEG, and there's so much more detail than a JPEG. But the trade-off is the file sizes are huge. So each image was about a gigabyte. I mean, a lot of times people complain, when you're uploading to social media, they're like, your image must be less than 2 megabytes and everything, and they get huffy. And so each image, when scanned, was 1 gigabyte. And so it took a little bit of work to do the to do essentially what we're doing now, is editing the colors and everything. But I finished that, and then I animated it really quick. It took me like 6 hours to animate 2 hours, and it was 2 hours and 45 minutes of animation that had to be done. And they're simple animations. They're 2 keyframes. It's zoom in to here and move to there, and that's it for each image. But it was an 8K resolution, the project. And so with the 8K video, that's around 30 megapixels, and it takes a long time, especially to downscale. Well, the animation, it has to either, it doesn't upscale, it just downscales the medium format to the specific place I put it in the animation. So it has to like process a 200 megapixel image for each frame. So it took about 20 seconds per frame, not 20 frames per second, to render each frame. It took, to render one frame, it took 20 seconds. And so it ended up taking about 2 months, which is, it was consistent. That's kind of what my math said it would do. So for 2 months, the computer was just rendering, plugging and chugging. And I wrote this special program. I'm rendering in Blender using the visual sequence editor, but I wrote this program that allows it to be pausable. So what that means is I would have it do batches of 50. So it would render 50 frames, and then it would stop, and it would write down, okay, this is the last frame I wrote, and then it would start Blender again and say, okay, do the next 50. And so it would keep doing that. And the reason why I had to do that is because if I'm rendering from the beginning to the end normally, you can't pause it, you can't stop, you have to wait till it all finishes. But with the pausable part, I could stop rendering live stream and then start rendering again after the live stream was over. And I learned a lot about the rendering process, because it can actually, I can do the produced content live streams easily, while the 8K footage is rendering. It's regular live streaming, creative live streams I can't do. So that's the other reason why there were so many produced content streams. And in addition to that, there was also, I have a lot more work that's ready to become public, and so there's a lot of new content coming out. Photations has Pam the Pioneer, which is a visual audio book where I narrate, and you go on a journey through Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and Cape Breton Island, which is part of Nova Scotia, and Halifax, also in Nova Scotia. Oh, and Newfoundland. I don't know if I said that. Make this moody. So this is the windmill blade. You can see how huge it is. And I mean, it looks, it's tall. You can tell it's like 3 times the size of this building. And the next photo, you see how thick it is. You can fit like 3 people standing next to it across. And it's just incredible that those giant things, it doesn't look that big. Like those, there it looks big. But It's incredible that those rotate and not fall on anyone. Okay, so now the photography is starting to get better. I was shooting at an ISO of 100, thinking that was enough, but because the windshield was is tinted and gives a weird color, it's even darker for the camera. So even though it's bright and sunny, it was shooting at too low of a shutter speed. Brighten the image, but bring down the exposure. And bringing down the exposure that way is it takes all, instead of evenly illuminating, which is what the brightness does, the bringing down the exposure, it takes like light sources, the sky, everything that's really bright. I can show you. It brings it down and darkens everything else, but it really focuses on bringing down darkness, bringing out things that are overexposed. Because like right here, it's a flat brightness, but when we take down the exposure, it kind of calculates, and you can kind of see how that flat white area, there's some definition in it. There's some clouds over here and everything. It's not that good of a photo for the example, but you can kind of see the difference that it makes. So when you take that down, it makes the sky less bright, but then we brighten up everything else, and so the sky is put back to being overexposed, but it's not like the entire scene like this is overexposed. It's just the sky, and everything else is just right, and it looks more natural that way. And the off ramp. And so the photos are getting better. I don't have to do that much editing. Those first ones are rough. I was getting worried. Zap Bros. And see, here's the blade of the windmill that generate the electricity. And you can see how huge it is. And there's the that's how they hold it. Oh man. I'm washing my clothes. Okay, I'll be right back. I gotta switch the dryer. And I'll give you guys something good to watch. Here's lighter than some. Okay, I'm back. Do. So we're kind of done with this section, which is what it looks like. We got lucky. Like, I was getting really worried. I was like, oh no, is the autofocus bad? Because usually I only do manual focus. But my eyes, like, I've needed to see the eye doctor since 2017. And I've just been, like, nervous about it, essentially. Nervous about going, not seeing the eye doctor, but I don't want to go and find out, oh, it's $1 million and all this stuff. And I was changing insurance. But I'm definitely going to go soon, before October. But the insurance company is yelling at me saying, you have to go see a doctor within, well, they said within 60 days, and that was like 30 days ago. So I have to schedule an appointment. But every time I go to choose my primary doctor, they, when you sign up for insurance, you get to choose from a list of doctors you want your primary to be. For whatever reason, it doesn't matter who I switch my insurance from, they always don't pick the one I chose. And it's like, what? And like, I've called them up and they're like, oh yeah, we just do that. Because, you know, there's just a default answer that they put, and it's like, but you had me go through the effort of, choosing. This guy doesn't even have a license plate. That didn't work. Let's reset that. Undo. Oh my goodness. This is the one area that Lightroom's not the best at. There we go. Blurred that guy out. Okay, next. exposure down for all of these sunset ones. That way there isn't so much noise. This is ISO 400. So that would make a lot of kind of noisy images. It's like large grain. Because that's originally what the ISO or the ASA was. It was determined by the size of the film grain. And so film is really, it's kind of like sand. And so the larger the sand, essentially, the higher the ISO. And the reason why you would want, essentially larger sand is because it is more sensitive to light, which means you can take photos in dark places at night, inside buildings, and the image would still come out bright. The reason why you don't always want a high ISO is because, like I said, the film grain, the sand, is essentially, it's bigger, which means it's lower quality. It's like having big pixels. Nobody wants big pixels. Everyone wants small, a lot, and small of pixels. And it's the same with ISO. The lower your ISO number, the smaller the size of the film grain, or the sensitivity to light in terms of digital. With digital, what it does is it combines pixels and kind of averages it out. I'm going to show you right here. It makes it really noisy. Like, you can see how grainy and everything is. That's what happens. Okay, we finished that. We finished 76 photos. Now we have 341. That's our goal. It'll take us an hour. This is going to go a lot faster. So we're going to kind of, this looks like it's supposed to be white. So that got us close. Well, I don't want so much magenta. I do want it a little bit greener. And then we're going to take away the blue. Like, not that much so that it looks sepia, but so we're going to make it, and then we're going to bring back a little bit of the magenta. There we go. And again, we're going to make our general settings. Bring down the exposure, but kind of up the brightness. So lower the contrast. That was all without touching the curves. Now we're going to fine tune it to an extreme. And then we're going to go rework everything. Okay, this doesn't look good, but it's what I want. It's what I want. So now we're going to synchronize settings. I'm just going to apply it to all these window shots. The photos that I took looking through the window. And I'll give it a second. bales of hay. There we go. The cows. The great cow. More cows. Yay, cows. I'm just going to bring up the brightness. There were a lot of interesting antennas that I took on photos I took on this trip. And let's bring this down. And we're in Wyoming now. Another ones were Nebraska. Now to let the computer catch up. Okay, it's like I said, most of these are fine. We did the general edit before and then applied it to all the images, and the first couple, they had me worried, just like that other section. I was like, this isn't the best, aren't the best photos. And now they're fine. And I'm talking in terms of motion blur and shaky cam. Let's bring up the brightness on this. This is actually the steering wheel. I'm in the back seat. And that semi was supposed to be there. That's what I was taking the photo of. Taking photos of oncoming traffic. There were some really interesting angles I was able to get, and you wouldn't think about trying to get, because right now I'm using, a telephoto lens. It's at 135 millimeters. Windmills galore. Like, there was a lot. All of a sudden you'd come over the hill and there would just be an army of windmills. And it's pretty cool because they were spinning, and Wyoming is windy. Like, they have all these wooden fences, and they're essentially there to one, kind of stop some of the wind, but their main reason is to stop the snow from blowing over the road in winter. Like, Wyoming and Nebraska get a ton of snow, and so if the winds come and just pile all the snow on the roads, it's really difficult to get it off. So once the snow falls, the snow that falls behind the fence, supposedly won't blow into the highway. Like, the highway still gets snowed over, but it's plowable. There's some of the interesting angles. That one's a Dutch angle. It gives me it's on a tilt, on a slant. Oh, here's like a lot of windmills. You would have thought it's Palm Springs. Do 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 do. No item mountains. A lot of rocks. Oh man. Getting excited. We have the train. And all the oil. All the oil cars. Oh, here we go. Union Pacific. I'll upload these to the cloud once I'm finished, and I'll share the link on social media, Twitter for sure. And let's crop this out. We're about halfway done with this section. It's a big crop. I'm not gonna lie. Whoa. Whoa. There's like a layer of haze. And that's not good. got really complicated all of a sudden. And there's a couple of them like that. Almost done. It's funny, I make Chatterbox for the first 45 minutes, and then I just run out of things to talk about. Horses, cows, and part of it is getting tired. It's 12:30 here. I do not have the stamina that for streaming that a lot of other streamers do. Like if it was something I did full time, then maybe. But I always have to like stretch my legs. It's kind of difficult to do a lot of video editing and photography live, because sometimes you have to render some segments out, and it's like, okay, I just have to wait like 40 minutes till it finishes. So it's not that good to do all that live. I believe this is Utah. It's definitely the ski resorts. All the bugs on the windshield. Yeah, this is definitely Utah, because I remember the sunset. It's looking good. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming out. I'm going to upload these to the photography store. Let me give you the store link. And I'll share on social media where that is. Probably tomorrow afternoon I'll post a link on Twitter and Facebook. So I want to thank everyone for coming out. It's been pretty good stream coming back. See everyone tomorrow. Tomorrow is video game live stream. I haven't decided if it's gonna be more Halo or Destiny. It'll probably be Destiny. I'm really getting into that. So I want to thank everyone for coming in. See you later. Bye bye.